They didn't call us space orcs because we were pretty. They called us that because humans refused to die. When the Kshar royal flagship, a leviathan of obsidian alloys and plasma turrets, warped into soul space, I thought Earth's worst fears had come true. But their message wasn't a declaration of war. It was a request. The king's heir is dying. Only a human may save her. Bring us your best. That's how I, Dr. Elias Ward, found myself surrounded by towering, reptilian warriors who looked at me like I was a bug they weren't allowed to squash. Their princess, Svanya, had led a rebellion against her father's empire. Now, she lay bleeding out from wounds too stubborn for their medtech. Why send for me? I asked the Kshar High Chancellor. Because your kind fixes what should be left to die, he said coldly. I wasn't sure if that was an insult or praise, but as I stepped into the sterile chamber where their rebellious princess lay with hate-filled eyes and a plasma burn across her chest, one thing was clear. This wasn't just a medical mission. It was a test of humanity itself. The medbay door hissed shut behind me, sealing me in with death and defiance. Princess Svanya wasn't what I expected of alien royalty. No jewels, no grandeur, just a pale, scaled face twisted in pain, golden eyes narrowing as they met mine. A human. Her voice was sharp despite her injuries. They send a soft flesh healer to mend me? Father must truly wish me dead. I ignored her venom. I'd treated warlords, pirates, even human insurgents. I wasn't here to make friends. I was here because my species' reputation for impossible survival had preceded me. Her body was a mess. Charred plasma wounds, shredded musculature, signs of genetic augmentation barely holding her organs together. The Kshar medics had done their best and failed. Their biogel couldn't cope with the adaptive mutations in her blood. Stay still, I said, setting down my portable nanokit. The autosurgeon unfolded with insectal precision. Or your pride won't be the only thing bleeding out. Bold words, Earth creature. She coughed blood and smirked. Perhaps you are as monstrous as they say. I didn't respond. My hands were already moving, weaving nanofibers into charred tissue. Around me, armored guards shifted uneasily. They hated that a human touched their princess. But they hated more that they needed me to succeed. Because if I failed, humanity might not live long enough to regret it. The Kshar didn't waste time on pleasantries. Their royal flagship, Vrakashtor, or Hand of the Eternal King, was a monstrous blade of obsidian slicing through the void. It was a symbol of their empire's might, bristling with plasma cannons large enough to atomize continents. And yet here I was, a single human combat medic, shuttling towards it in a vessel so small it would barely register on their scanners. Approaching Hangar Bay, the autopilot announced. My hands tightened on the straps of my medical bag. The request from the Kshar King had been simple and terrifying. Your kind is hardy. Your kind adapts. Send us a healer capable of saving the air. They didn't ask. They didn't negotiate. Earth's fledgling diplomatic council sent me because they knew what refusal meant. The shuttle rocked slightly as it was pulled into their magnetic dock. Moments later, the ramp extended with a hiss of hydraulics. Heat hit me first. Kshar preferred temperatures that would boil most humans alive. Then came the stench of blood, metal, and something reptilian. 6 Kshar warriors waited, towering over me in armor that seemed grown rather than forged. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dark as they examined me like one might a particularly offensive parasite. You are the human healer, one rumbled in galactic standard. I'm Dr. Elias Ward, I said, forcing calm into my voice. Take me to the patient. A low hiss vibrated through the group, a sound I later learned was their version of laughter. Follow, and pray your soft flesh does not melt, another said, turning on his heel. The med bay was more like an arena than a hospital. Massive pillars supported biotanks, where half-healed warriors floated in nutrient gel. The air buzzed with the smell of ozone and antiseptic. And in the center, on a slab of living stone, lay Princess Svanya. She was striking even in her brokenness, tall, scaled in patterns of iridescent black and gold, her tail draped limply off the edge. A massive plasma burn scored her chest, the edges cauterized but seeping. Her breathing was shallow, labored. Her golden eyes opened as I approached. A human, she spat. Blood stained her sharp teeth. Father truly despises me, to entrust my life to a space orc. I ignored the slur. Stay still. Your system is in shock. I need nothing from you. She tried to rise, gasping as her wound tore slightly. I dropped my bag and activated my nanokit. Sleek silver tendrils uncoiled, scanning her injuries. Funny, your vitals disagree. The Kshar guards hissed again, but didn't intervene. Either they believed in me, or they hoped I'd fail and spare them the trouble of executing a rebel. Her bloodwork appeared on my HUD. I blinked. You're augmented. I hadn't meant to say it aloud. Her cells showed signs of gene editing, spliced with predator DNA. Some modifications looked unstable. She laughed bitterly. I am my father's perfect weapon, until I turned it against him. I injected her with a stabilizer before she could protest. Save your strength. If you want to finish your rebellion, you'll need to survive this first. Her eyes narrowed. You do not fear me. No, I said simply. I've seen worse. The autosurgeon hissed as it began stitching charred flesh with nanofiber webs. Svanu's claws flexed, scraping grooves into the stone. You're kind, she whispered hoarsely. They call you monsters. Even the Kshar fear your tenacity. I checked my readings. Her heart rate was stabilizing, but something in her tone made me glance up. Then they're smarter than they look, I said dryly. For the first time, her lips curled, not in mockery but amusement. You may yet survive this place, human. As I sealed her wound, alarms blared suddenly in the med bay. Red lights bathed the chamber as Kshar guards drew their blades. Intruders, one shouted. Rebel assassins on board. I reached for my sidearm. Great. I hadn't even finished saving the princess, and already someone was trying to kill her. The medbay's red lights pulsed like a heartbeat. Sirens wailed across the flagship, their pitch deep and guttural, as if the ship itself was growling. Rebels, one of the guards hissed, baring teeth. They've boarded. Here, for the air. The other warriors raised plasma spears and shifted toward the exits. But their leader stayed by Svanu's slab, his eyes fixed on me. You, human. His voice rumbled like distant thunder. Defend the air. Fail, and Earth dies with her. I wasn't planning to let her bleed out anyway, I muttered, drawing my sidearm from my medical pack. It was a compact pulse pistol, illegal in Kshar space. But I wasn't about to argue technicalities. A blast shook the med bay. The far door crumpled inward, molten edges glowing. Figures emerged through the smoke, slender Kshar rebels in scavenged armor, eyes wild with fanatic rage. Traitor princess! One screeched in Kshar dialect. Your blood seals the future. Stay down, I told Svanya, snapping up my pistol. But she pushed herself up on trembling arms, tail curling weakly. I will not cower like prey. The first rebel lunged, plasma blade raised. My training kicked in. I sidestepped, caught his wrist, and fired point-blank into his chest. He crumpled with a gurgle. 2 more charged. I dropped to one knee and fired, hitting one in the throat. The other swung a blade at my head. Too close. I ducked. The edge skimmed my shoulder, searing fabric and skin. Pain flared, but I shoved him back with a grunt and fired again. The guards joined in. spears hissing as they clashed with the remaining attackers. Svenja snarled, trying to rise, but her legs buckled. "Lie still, damn it!" I snapped, catching her before she fell. "You're minutes out from bleeding to death. Better to die fighting than under a healer's hand," she hissed. "Not today." I slammed a fresh nanostim into her arm. She shuddered as strength flooded her limbs. The last rebel broke through the guard line, a dagger raised high for the kill. But Svenja moved first. With a roar, she lashed her tail, sweeping his legs out. He crashed to the floor as she grabbed his blade with clawed hands and drove it through his chest. For a moment, the medbay was silent except for the labored breathing of survivors. The lead guard stepped forward, staring at me. His gaze lingered on the dead rebels, then my scorched uniform, then Svenja, alive and furious. "Perhaps the human is not entirely soft," he said reluctantly. Svenja looked at me, blood smearing her scaled face, her golden eyes blazing. "You fight like a Kshar. Brutal, efficient, and yet merciful." I holstered my pistol. "You're welcome. You are dangerous, human." She managed a weak chuckle. "I think I like that." I ignored the uneasy flutter in my stomach and scanned her vitals again. The nanostim was wearing off fast. She needed rest, not another battle. "You're going to live," I said, sealing her bandages. "But keep pushing, and even I won't be able to save you next time." Her smirk faded into something colder. "If I live, it will not be for my father's sake. It will be to finish what I started. Your rebellion—" Her eyes met mine, hard and unyielding. "My father would burn the galaxy to preserve his throne. I would burn his throne to save the galaxy." The Kshar guards shifted uneasily at her words, but none dared speak. And in that moment, I realized something chilling. I wasn't just patching up a patient. I was tending to the spark of a war that could engulf every species, including my own. The medbay was quiet now. Too quiet. The bodies of the rebel assassins had been cleared, but the faint metallic tang of blood lingered in the humid air. Svenja lay back on the stone slab, her chest rising and falling steadily as the autosurgeon continued its work. The glowing nanofiber mesh I'd applied pulsed faintly, knitting torn muscle and sealing ruptured arteries. "You should rest," I said, scanning her vitals on my wrist display. "Your cells are still destabilizing from the augmentations." She opened one golden eye, her expression somewhere between amusement and exhaustion. "Rest?" While my father's hounds circle this room, wondering whether to protect me or slit my throat. I glanced at the guards stationed at the door. Their armor gleamed in the red emergency light, but their tails twitched nervously. I didn't trust them either. "Your augmentations," I said carefully. "They're not standard, are they?" Svenja's gaze turned sharp. "You noticed." I showed her the hollow display of her cellular scans. Mutated genes flashed in crimson. Spliced predator DNA. Aggression enhancers. Regenerative factors, but unstable. "They're eating you from the inside out." "Father's gift," she said bitterly. "The perfect air forged in a lab. Faster, stronger, deadlier." She looked away. "A weapon with a crown, which you turned on him." "Yes." Her tail curled weakly. "When I learned his plan." She took a long, ragged breath, then met my eyes with an intensity that made my stomach knot. "The Kshar Empire is dying. My father's solution? A galaxy purged of weakness. Billions slaughtered to ensure only the strongest survive. He sees humanity's rise as proof of his fears. You adapt too quickly, too stubborn to die. He calls your kind chaos incarnate." I didn't flinch. He's not entirely wrong. Svenja's lips curled in a faint smile. "That's why I rebelled. Not for power. For the species who cannot fight back. For a galaxy where even the so-called weak deserve to exist." I studied her, This half-dead rebel princess who'd slaughtered her father's soldiers yet spoke of mercy. "You sound almost human," I said. She chuckled dryly. "Perhaps your madness is contagious." The medbay door hissed. I spun, hand near my sidearm, but it was only the lead Kshar guard. He stalked in, his voice low and wary. "Human, the king summons you." Svenja stiffened. "Do not go." "Relax," I said. "I doubt he dragged me across half the galaxy just to have me shot. You don't know him." Her eyes were sharp now, almost desperate. "He respects only strength. Show weakness, and you won't leave this ship alive." I hesitated. Something in her tone felt more like a warning than concern. "Noted," I said finally, shouldering my medical bag. As I turned to follow the guard, Svenja's voice stopped me. "Elias." I glanced back. She looked smaller somehow, tired, vulnerable. "Thank you," she murmured. I gave a tight nod. "Don't thank me yet. I might regret saving you." The door sealed behind me with a hiss. The hallway beyond was dim, the air thick with heat and tension. And as I walked toward the throne room of a king who saw my entire species as a threat, one thought gnawed at me. This wasn't just about saving a princess anymore. This was about whether humanity would have a place in this galaxy or become its next extinction. The throne room of the Kshar wasn't a room at all. It was a cavern. The walls pulsed with bioorganic veins carrying glowing ichor. Massive stone pillars twisted upward like fossilized serpents. At the far end, on a throne carved from the skull of a long-extinct star leviathan, sat the king. He was enormous even by Kshar standards. Old, scaled hide turned silver with age, eyes glowing like molten gold. His claws drummed idly on the throne's armrests, each tap echoing like a drumbeat of doom. I forced myself to stand tall as I approached, my boots echoing on the obsidian floor. My mind screamed at me to kneel, but my instincts, the very human ones, told me not to bow to a being that considered my species vermin. "So," the king rumbled, his voice deep enough to vibrate in my bones, "this is the human who saved my traitor daughter." I did what I was asked to do, I said evenly. The guards tensed. One even hissed, hand twitching toward his weapon. No one spoke to the eternal king like that. But to my surprise, the massive reptilian monarch laughed. "Bold. Your kind always was." His eyes narrowed. "Do you know why I summoned you?" I didn't answer. "You humans are unpredictable. Fragile bodies, yet unbreakable wills. Soft flesh, yet you outlive even the hardiest of species through sheer stubbornness. A paradox." He stood, slowly, deliberately. The room seemed to shrink as his shadow fell over me. "I need to know if the stories are true," he growled. "If your kind truly deserves the fear it inspires." Two Kshar warriors stepped forward, tossing me a blunt practice blade. "Fight," the king commanded. "You're joking." He wasn't. A massive Kshar soldier, nearly twice my height, squared off against me, his tail lashed, claws gleaming. I sighed, gripping the blade. "Fine, let's dance." The first strike came fast. I ducked, narrowly avoiding a tail swipe meant to shatter my ribs. I jabbed upward, catching him in the gut. He barely flinched. Second strike. Claws raked my arm, drawing blood. Pain flared, but I pressed forward. I wasn't stronger, wasn't faster, but I was human, and humans fought dirty. I feinted left, then slammed my boot into his knee. Bone cracked. The warrior roared, stumbling. I didn't hesitate, slamming the hilt of my blade into his throat. He dropped with a choking hiss. Silence. Then the king's laughter boomed, shaking dust from the cavern ceiling. "Good. Very good." His golden eyes gleamed. "Now I see why your kind survives." He descended from his throne, towering over me. "You are no warrior, yet you triumph through guile and ferocity. Perhaps humanity has a place in my galaxy after all. I stayed silent, chest heaving from the fight. The king's expression darkened. But know this, if you fail my daughter, if her rebellion shames this throne further, I will make your species' extinction my personal crusade. No pressure, I muttered. The king bared his teeth. Not a smile, not quite a snarl. Go. She needs you, and perhaps you need her. As I was escorted out, my mind raced. This wasn't just about saving Svenja anymore. It was about humanity proving itself in a galaxy that viewed us as monsters. Or becoming a monster ourselves to S. The medbay doors slid open with a hiss. Svenja sat on the slab, her posture stiff despite the bandages crisscrossing her scales. Her golden eyes snapped to me, pupils narrowing to slits. You're alive. Disappointed? I asked, dropping my bloodied medkit on the counter. She smirked faintly. A little, but mostly surprised. He's killed seasoned generals for less defiance. I sat across from her, feeling every bruise from the king's test. He doesn't think humans are weak anymore, I said. Svenja tilted her head. That means you passed. Barely. I flexed my shoulder, still aching from a Kshar soldier's strike. But he gave me a message for you. Oh, if you shame his throne again, he'll burn Earth to cinders. He seemed serious. She chuckled, though it sounded hollow. He's always serious. There was a long silence. Then she leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. I need you to understand, Elias. My rebellion isn't just for me. It's for every species my father plans to erase. He thinks only the strong deserve the stars. I think strength means protecting the weak. You're asking me to take sides, I said carefully. I'm asking you to help me end a war before it consumes your people too. Before I could reply, the medbay doors opened again. 2 elite guards entered, flanking the massive silhouette of the king himself. Svenja stiffened. Father. The king's golden eyes swept the room, landing on me. Human healer. I stood slowly, fighting every primal instinct screaming at me to avoid his gaze. You saved my daughter's life, he said, voice a low rumble, and proved your species is not without merit. One of the guards stepped forward, holding a ceremonial object, a black metal gorget with the Kshar crest etched in crimson. You are hereby bound to my daughter's service as her Oathblood. Svenja's eyes widened. You can't be serious. You need protection, the king growled. And he needs purpose. He will guard you until your rebellion burns out or succeeds. The guard fastened the gorget around my neck. It was heavier than it looked, like wearing a shackle and a crown all at once. Congratulations, human, the king said darkly. You now represent your entire species. Should you fail her? I know, I said. Earth burns. The king bared his fangs, not a smile, a warning. Then he turned and stalked out, his guards in tow. Svenja stared at me as the door hissed shut. Well, Oathblood, she said, her tone sardonic. Looks like you're stuck with me. Seems that way, I replied dryly. So, what's the plan? Her golden eyes gleamed, a fire smoldering behind them. First, we survive. Then, we unite the scattered worlds. And finally, her claws flexed. We end the reign of monsters. I exhaled, my pulse thrumming. I patched you up, princess. Don't make me regret it. She smirked, but there was a flicker of respect in her gaze now. Too late, Oathblood. You're already part of the war. And as the flagship's engines roared to life, carrying us toward the unknown, I couldn't shake one thought. In saving one alien princess, I might have doomed or saved my entire species.